This is session 3, but how many of you are coming for the first workshop? I mean, this is your first time here. Do you mind put up your hand? Let me know. Okay, so all right. So if you are here for the first time, I guess there are a couple of things that I would like you to catch up on, but really quick, this is what I had done in the past. But the whole idea, just to give you a snapshot of what I'm doing for the series workshop, basically I'm doing a tutorial thing on SPSS, and then the topics that we cover are, I guess, survey data, longitudinal data, which is what we are doing now, and aggregate data next week. So so that's it. And then for the survey data, we sort of like, I want to say, divide it into two sections: univariate and then bivariate. That was the plan. That what we had done. We had a couple of examples for you. I'm not sure if everyone got to practice on that, but like I said, I was being honest with you. This is just going to be leading you into the I guess the nuts and bolts of SPSS, but in terms of getting to know the specifics of that and practice on the data sets, etc. It's going to take more than just the class time that we spend each week, 2 hours and a half, something like that. So, but the goal is to have you be exposed to SPSS if this is your first time. But if this is not your first time trying SPSS, then you might be able to know more about it. But the majority of the resources, okay, the educational materials on SPSS, I was sharing with some of you who came since the first session, was from UK Data Services, which is the first time me having access to that, but I think it's pretty helpful and informational as well. So I would want these sessions or workshops to be, I want to say, an informational tour for you as well, to know more about SPSS on not SPSS, UK Data Services, and what it has to offer. Basically, we'll kind of like go through the series of that together. But obviously, we are not going to be able to cover every single example that are being presented on those modules, because as myself was practicing some of the practices and examples, I think it took me longer than just 2 hours and a half for each session. So there's more than enough we can chew for the time being, but at least I wanted to share with you whatever I have, okay? All right, so these are the topics. I guess I'll just skip them. Have SPSS installed. If you haven't done that, just Google SPSS HKU. That should lead you into it. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna just move on to UK Data Services, given the fact that many of you are actually here for the I guess second or the third time. I'm just gonna get started. So let me finish this. I'll show you what I was doing. So this is basically picking up. Okay, let me just finish this so I can show you what I was doing. Very satisfied. If you agree to, yeah, I'm not a robber. Okay, motorcycle. Verify. Okay, submit answer. Okay. So what I was doing before you come in today was that I think I already started. So I showed some of you last week. I was trying to gain access to Understanding Society, Waves 1 to 12, 2019 to 2021. Save. Okay. I was trying to gain access to that data, this data set in particular, on UK Data Services. This is what we'll be using for the longitudinal data survey. And then it's from 2009 to 2021. So there are, I want to say, more than a decade, a little bit more than a decade. And then this harmonized BHPS survey from Waves 1 to 18, which is also from 1991 to 2009. Now, there are a lot of those. We're not going to be using each and every one of the data set. We're going to take a snapshot of everything, and we probably will get into, I want to say, a few of them, depending on the examples we're looking at, and then that's about it. But this is a very big data warehouse in a way, okay, because look at it, there are 12 waves, the other one has 18 waves, so there are quite a few. I downloaded this SPSS data format. Obviously, you have the CEDA format too. If you want to go that route, that's not a problem. But in order to do that, typically speaking, you don't necessarily have to register an account on UK Data Services to access the data. For example, the very first data set that we used for the workshop, which is let me show you, which is the quarterly labor force survey. This one I'm opening it up right now. Okay, this one that we have used, we did not necessarily need to register an account. We could just like download it right away. But it's also a smaller data set, and this is also what we call like a unrestricted access teaching data set. So there were no, I guess there were no restrictions, and we were just able to download it right away, which is cool. But I guess it's a different lesson that we learned for the second workshop. We need to register an account, but the benefit of registering an account is that you could keep things, I guess, under the same profile. Like for example, I need to create a project. Okay, I need to create a project. This is just to show you how to get the data. But I think it's beneficial in a way that I guess you're coming to SPSS workshops for a couple of reasons. You're going to be a professional researcher, or you are already a professional researcher working on academics, and then there are lots we have to deal with when we do research with data. And then there are lots of different resources or channels we can obtain data sets from. And then this is one of them. Okay, although I wasn't familiar with UK Data Services, but in the past, I want to say a month and a half, I was looking into it thoroughly. One, I have to teach the workshops. Two, I think it generally connects to some of the existing data sets I have already had access to, like National Survey for College Graduates, which is what I accessed from the US data portal, ICPSR, housed at University of Michigan. I did that. So that was just, not something new I have discovered, but I was pleasantly surprised that UK Data Service was actually introducing how do you get connected to I guess data sources from other countries, so which is great. So, but this process of having yourself registered, access the data set is going to be a fundamental one for you to move forward with your research journey, whatever your purpose is going to be, and it's gonna. I guess it's going to be helpful. You want to know how to download it. You also want to know where to find the resource, and then after you download it, how do you make sense of them or organize them or make the most out of that. So, all right. So that's what I was doing. I wanted to show you really quick. Let me go back to downloads folder. Okay, so this is still downloading. Why? Because this is, like I said, this is a huge file. It actually took me close to 1 hour at home to download it. This is much faster here because I think it's connected. Yes, I'm right. It's connected to Ethernet. It's not just like Wi-Fi. So it's going to be a lot faster. This one probably is not connected to Wi-Fi. Okay, this one is connected to Wi-Fi, not connected to Ethernet. When it was connected to Ethernet at the other classroom we did the workshop in, that was faster. So this time around, it may take a little bit longer just because it's a huge data set. But at home, it took me something like an hour. I did not really look at the time, but yeah, this is the progress. Downloading progress bar that's indicating. So it's going to take a while, but that's okay. While it's downloading the data set, we can look at the other things and then get us prepared in a way, okay? But the most important thing is not just to jump right into the SPS data set and start analyzing. Those could be helpful, but also my experience is that it could also be misleading from time to time if you don't have the dots connected in a pretty sequential way, okay? But we all learn from making mistakes, and also this is new to each and every one of us. We are trying to incorporate this series of workshops into a class in the future, or we'll see how we are going to run this next year, etc. So I'm new to Hong Kong U from last year too. So I guess we're just trying to test things out. Okay. So we'll work with you. But I think this learning progress that we are on right now would be helpful to each and every one of us. Okay. All right, so let's let the UK Data Service portal download data on its own, and then we'll go over to other things that we can talk about at the same time. So just to refresh your memory, to access the lecture materials, pretty much like everything, okay? The majority of them, we only need to go over to UK Data Services and then go over to Learning Hub. This is what we are doing. Now, if you have time after these workshops, feel free to explore the other data, fun data, and training and events thing on UK Data Service. They have a lot more than I actually originally thought, okay? Very, very informational. Like I said, I really wish when I started my research journey or doctorate journey a couple of years ago, many years ago, I wish I had access to something like this. I wasn't trained systematically on this. Like I'm an applied economist working on education policy, but I guess I picked up my skill sets from everywhere. Like I think the biggest learning curve was that I did a lot of replications on many of the published papers. That's how I learned coding. Okay, because no one's going to teach you. Okay, not like I did not have great professors to do that. I had amazing world-class professor back there, but I feel like it's something. It is a skill set you wanted to hone yourself. So there are a lot more than what we can talk in this series of workshops. I may even want to develop I guess future workshops on any of the topics that are being offered on this, like research data management. I find it very, very, very helpful. Okay, I don't know your specific discipline, but I feel like you could benefit. Like there's a geography and data thing. I think there's a department geography here. Yeah, so I think there's a lot more you can do. Yeah, I think I'm not sure why it's under Faculty of Social Science here, but I think it makes sense. All right. So, but we are going into data skills and modules, and then we, for those of you who came for the first time, we started from the survey data part. One of the things that would be very helpful in terms of getting started on SPSS, all the commands, I have asked the department to help me send it over to you. If you haven't seen it, I can share it with you after class. So basically, this is, I want to say, the majority of the commands that you need to use for your SPSS operations, okay? Except the very first one, because I'm Asian. This is a course I took back at Columbia in 2012. I think it's the fall of 2012. That's like 11 years ago. I forgot who I took it with. That professor left Columbia for somewhere in DC, Georgetown maybe. He taught the course, and then that was the only class I need to take SPSS. I need to use SPSS, but it was I think it was on time series regressions or cross-sectional regression. I forgot what the class was exactly about, but he shared this file with us, and then I think it was my reference manual for whatever I do in that class for every single assignment that we had to work on individually and also in a group, mostly in a group, but I also had a few problem sets I have to complete myself. But it was very informational. But after that semester, I have never touched the SPSS because like my main thing is still stata. But that being said, you could use this continually for this class. I mean, not for this class, for the series of this workshop. And then if you move on to use SPSS for your own research papers, you could definitely refer to it. Nothing's wrong with it other than the first one, like you don't use CD these days anymore, okay? But I guess you can you can download data sets from a variety of resources. So this is how helpful it is. I think some of them are very much helpful. Like we talked about, like pie chart, bar chart, histogram. These give you specific instruction. It doesn't go out of date because it's the same thing, okay? I started with this status version. I want to say maybe 11, something like that. Right now it's 18 or 19. I still have state of 15. I don't think it went out of date, but it changes every year. But if you want to spend that amount of money, you can do that. It's $300 every year. So I don't do that. So anyways, these are going to be extremely straightforward for you to do, but you have to take time to make the point and click thing, like click on graphs, legacy dialogues, etc., and do that. And then obtain descriptive statistics. This is major. This is straightforwardly major. Okay, like you have to create a table for descriptive statistics, and then what we talked about, the bivariate variables, that's last time, creating two to examine the correlation between two variables. And furthermore, this is, I want to say, the essence of research anyways. I mean, you start from looking at the correlation and see if there are going to be assumptions or that you can make or based on to make, I guess, a causal argument for your question. For social science, the many of us are in that discipline, then this is exactly what you can do. Okay, so if you don't have access to this file, make sure you ask them point of contact person at the department for this workshop. I'm sure she will send it to you, okay? Because I emailed her after the very first workshop, and then she said she emailed everybody who attended the first workshop. But if you were to attend the second workshop and third workshop, I'm sure she'll be happy to share with you. I just find this file to be extremely relevant and also helpful to me even today, okay? So that's that. All right, so let's go back to the data sets thing that we were talking about. All right, so that's the survey data. This is the longitudinal data session we were talking about. Just to pick up where we left from last workshop, I guess last Tuesday. It's a little bit slow here for whatever reason. I think it's because of the downloading thing that's going on. Let's see, is this still download? Oh, actually, the downloading thing actually stopped. Maybe because it's too big or something. Anyways, we can survive without even having the data sets today because there are lots of demos we could learn just by watching them too. So I don't think that's going to be a problem, but it's just the downloading thing itself stopped. So I think it's pretty much because, so it's pretty much because it was too big and then it just stopped. Okay, anyways, we'll see how this goes. There are going to be variations, but that's fine. I mean, changes happen. I'm not worried about it. I just, we just have to be consistent with it, make sure we get something out of this. That's it. Okay, so longitudinal data, we obviously talked about longitudinal data. This is very critical. If you don't already know where to find longitudinal data, this is a place where you can do a lot. Many data archives and services in the UK context, and there are a lot more in the other context. These resources are going to be very, very helpful. Okay, the one I was most familiar with was National Longitudinal Data Survey, National Longitudinal Surveys, and then also this ICPSR thing from University of Michigan. So you want to make sure that you know these resources. They're going to be extremely helpful for you moving forward for whatever you do. But this is going to take you, I want to say, probably a couple months just to get, digested with everything that they are saying here, like data archives and services, and get organized. So, but anyways, I did not dive into that too much because I have too many data sets to work on right now. Really don't have the capacity to look anything else, but you can if you're just getting started with your research ideas and topics. They are going to be extremely helpful. The other thing I wanted to show you is that these longitudinal data examples that are being presented in this module called cases, okay? Like case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. They may not be directly relevant to your research projects or research ideas, but what I would encourage you to do is that I find them extremely inspiring in a way that not able to speak English well today for whatever reason. But anyways, I find them extremely inspiring in a way that it helps me understand exactly what question I'm asking for my research. And then just to give you an example, if I were to click on this case, it does tell me that what exactly is my topic, because in many cases we are not crystal clear with what we want to study, okay? Or we think we want to study question 1, but as a matter of fact, we are studying a completely different question, and we are using a different data set, okay? So that oftentimes happens, and it happens a lot. So to keep us on the track and be consistent, I think it's important to kind of keep reminding yourself, what are you looking at, what's going on with the questions you are trying to examine, and what resources do you have in disposal. So looking at these cases are going to be extremely helpful in many ways, and I want you to be able to to know them. But I'm not going to bore you by going through each one of the cases, but if I were to teach a class on this on a semester-long basis, I'm pretty sure that I'll spend time looking into each and every case with the students and have them discuss about them. But given the different level of preparations that you guys have, some of you are undergrad, some of them master, some of them you are doing either professional doctorate or PhD. I think we have a range of varieties here, so I'll just leave that up to you, okay? But I would encourage you to look at that. And then you download this study. That's what we're doing right now. We go over to the documentation survey design first, and then unit net response. This is a major thing, okay? And also survey weights. I was writing another paper of mine this morning from 10 to 11 before I came teach today. I think the paragraph that I wrote on today was exact. I was using National Survey for College Graduates 2019-2017. One of the comments from a professor of mine, we're still working together, was that he said, Dean, you have to explain the survey methodology, like the national survey for college graduates that you're looking at 2019-2017. Okay, that's fine. I mean, but you said they're doing strata survey, but how did they do that? You have to be clear on that. And then obviously you're looking at 220 something respondents, but what's the survey response rate? Okay, I'm sure the survey was being weighted out of like how many targeted audiences, etc. This is very critical, like survey weights, because I am writing this paragraph. I want to get something done on a Monday morning, so I got over there. I have to do it. But I think it's very relevant to what we're doing today. You have to explain the weights and then, because otherwise, what the heck are you talking about? You wouldn't be able to tell your audience what are you researching exactly. Remember, the surveys are not everything about reality, and we're not trying to get reality data from just a piece of paper that we write, but we have to explain ourselves. So survey weights are going to be very important. And then the ones who don't respond, every single survey they will be able to say. You have to understand what is unit net response, and also what do you mean exactly in response in a longitudinal survey. So these examples that we shared with you from different waves, okay, this is not just about run a couple of codes and then regress it, and then you can come up with the outputs. That's it, because that is mechanical. You don't have to have anyone to train you on that. Or share anything with you. You can do that on your own, pretty much. Okay, you don't have to do it here, but you have to understand the mechanics behind it. What's going on with this survey, for sure. Okay, there are different waves. Like we are looking at 18 different waves. Let's see. Okay. All right. So the data downloading thing actually stopped away, just so you know, because it's not here anymore. But that's fine. Like I said, I'm just going to keep bugging on it until it actually downloads. But if it doesn't download, I guess we can. It's actually good in a way because we can go over the examples on UK Data Services together. We'll show you, we'll watch the demo videos, and then you can do that back at home, okay? And I will email you not the entire data sets. That's not possible. I'll just email you specifically the waves, or you could just download them yourself. I would encourage you to download them yourself, because that's what you are here for. Otherwise, you don't have to come to a workshop. I could just write an information booklet, share it with you, attachments, data set 1, 2, 3, that's it. You could do that. But I would encourage you to kind of this is the real process of doing a research. So my understanding of this SPS workshop is not to tell you how to code. Well, we give you guidelines how to code, and then you do that. But basically, we're not trying to feed you with exact codes, and you do that, and then you come up with a table. You compare with me. That's it. Well, that's elementary school, but this is at the university level, so that's not what we're doing. But to help you actually being able to do this on your own as a professional researcher is our goal. Okay. All right. So, anyways, if it doesn't download for the third time again, I guess I'm just gonna quit downloading it, but that's fine. I mean, I thought about this anyways before I came in today, so I think we're just gonna be able to live with that. Okay. All right, so that's that. The different waves, but understand the households permanently leave the survey. This is, there are different names. These are different names for these kind of events. Okay, this is also considered as attrition. Some of you understand it, but you have to address it. Or they just temporarily drops off the survey or would actually come back on. Okay, and then why does non-response matter or it doesn't matter? So this is also what we wanted to understand. Because depending on the question that we are looking at, they mean differently. Okay. And then in the survey that we're looking at, how do we measure non-response and attrition? Okay, these are very common because you're not looking at one survey only or one period only. You're looking at multiple periods. So these are very, very common to longitudinal social surveys, and the information is included in the data to allow you to understand why there are some of them who does not respond, and oftentimes why they did not respond. So don't pretend that when you're writing the research, everybody knows 100% of the data set has to offer. You have to explain to them yourself as, I guess, the main protagonist for this entire research. Okay. All right. So I think this is what we stopped last week, and then this is using weights in longitudinal data. Let's, I don't remember we watched it last time, but this is a short video. I wanted to take a look at it with you just so that you understand the weights thing in longitudinal data well. Again, I did come across with this morning. I think it's very relevant, and then I had to refer back to some of my notes to make sure I wrote them correctly. So particularly for some of you who are here for the first time, let's take a look at it. Okay.
In this short video, we'll be looking at a really important aspect of working with longitudinal data, that is using weights. Survey datasets contain information about a sample taken from the population, but what we want to do is use that sample to say something about the whole population. Data producers calculate weights to make the data more representative of the population it's designed to reflect. A weighting variable assigns a value to each observation in the data to indicate how much they should be represented in the analysis. These weights are an important part of ensuring our analysis represent the population we're interested in. There are a number of factors that can make survey data unrepresentative of the population. Factors such as the sample design or non-response can lead to certain groups being over or underrepresented in the data. If we don't adjust for these factors, our results can be biased or inaccurate. This applies to descriptive statistics as well as estimates from more complex statistical models. But weights allow us to compensate for these factors, and most social survey datasets include weighting variables. With a dataset, one way to identify weighting variables is in their names. Weighting variable names often include the word weight or an abbreviation such as WT. For example, W8FinWT is the Wave 8 final weight in the most recent wave of NextSteps, the longitudinal study of young people in England. Some datasets will contain more than one weighting variable, and this is especially common in complex studies such as longitudinal studies. This is because these studies can be used as cross-sectional data or longitudinal data, and in the case of understanding society, for example, the data can be used at the individual or the household level. So it is important to be familiar with the weights and apply the most appropriate one for your analysis. For example, here are the weights available in the Understanding Society data. You can see there's quite a few. If you are carrying out cross-sectional analysis, then you should select one of the variables that ends in XW. If you're doing longitudinal analysis, then select one of the variables that end in LW. This is where you should consult the documentation, as this will provide information on what each weighting variable is and will guide you to select the most appropriate weight to use for your particular analysis. Statistical packages such as SPSS have functions built in that allow you to apply weights to your data. You need to ensure that you have chosen the most appropriate weight and that you know the name of the variable. Then in SPSS, for example, you can use the drop-down menus by going to Data and Weight Cases to apply the weight. If you are doing initial exploratory analysis to explore, for example, whether the sample size is sufficient, then you should not apply the weights, as the weights might scale the sample size up and give a false impression of the sample size. Once you are happy that the data set has sufficient numbers and are ready to proceed with your analysis, in most cases you will need to weight the data.
Okay, so all right, we'll come back to this, but basically what it emphasizes here is what we call the documentation thing that you wanted to check out before you do any, I guess, either you're merging a data set or you are recoding a data set, or you are trying to do a couple of regressions. Before you do any of that, you wanted to be able to understand the documentation thing, okay? I thought it's connected to documentation, but apparently this is just explaining what does documentation mean. Basically, in every data set, I mean, whatever you can download, okay, it looks like it's downloading this time, so which is good. There will be a documentation. Hold on, I'm gonna just go back here. I extracted this one. I'll just show you. The documentation is pretty straightforward. This is, I want to say, this is the documentation of the teaching data set for the one we used in the first survey, the first couple workshop. So this is about this user guide and everything about it. What this is, Introduction to Labor Force Survey. This is critically important in many ways before you start on you may feel like it's a waste of time to look into this, even if you are working on your own research. But my experience is that I oftentimes will come back to this in the middle of my research progress because I don't really know what the survey is all about. I have to repetitively come back to this and make sure I teach myself on this, okay? Pretty critical, and also it also helps you come up with, I want to say, other layers of questions, not just research question you're looking at exactly, because we all know what we're doing. We're not just researching a single question only. This question has relevant I guess associations with many other sub-questions. To be able to work on those sub-questions, some of the topics or variables that are being provided in the survey are going to help us to think about it. Okay, so this is what we call the documentation about the data sets, and then exactly what is the sample design, and also other useful sources of information. But I guess it's going to take time to know of that. And then this is also very helpful. Even though this is just a teaching data set, it's a demonstration. The list of variables that you would have a snapshot right away. You know the total number of observations, the variables in total, and also the variable type and variable name, and then variable label, like what are they exactly, economic activity, do you need more? That's a question I would actually ask, okay? Do you need more? Or maybe you don't need all of the data, all of the variables that are already provided in this current data set, but you need something different. Could that be possible? Very much so, okay? Very much so. We just have to investigate and look into this. So anyways, this is what the documentation is here for, okay? A missing value, specifically missing value, you have to address it, know exactly what they are, and also what do they mean in the what do they look like in the actual data set, like missing value of no answer does not apply. You may want to do something with it, okay, depending on the question you're looking at. So again, and you also your research approach, so you want to address it one way or the other. So so that's that. I wanted to pause here for now. That's what we call the documentation thing. All right, let's moving on. Well, this is check your understanding. I guess I'll just have you to work on that later on. Let's get started with the data. Let's see what examples are they going to ask us to work on. So this is looking at, again, we are looking at this understanding survey society study and how to download the data. That's what we did just now. And then we'll look at the important aspects of survey design, types of non-response and the reasons behind it, and how to use weights in longitudinal data. So this is what we, I guess, what we had done. Moving forward, we are trying to understand the structure of the data first. Okay, like different waves. What do you mean by different waves? Okay, like what kind of questionnaires are being included in this, and how do we identify individuals and household, because these are two layers of I guess research samples that we're looking at in the data, and also how to merge files. Okay, the merging file thing is not necessarily easy or tough. I feel like it's very much doable. That's how I put it. It's very much doable, and even if you don't have a lot of, I want to say, skills working on this and doing it for the first try, you could also do that. Pretty straightforward. You just need to make sure, and SPSS make it so straightforward and easy to do so by having you point and click on the right, I guess, red command, and also identify the exact data observation ID, and then you'll be able to connect it. Okay, simply put, if you want to connect or merge two data sets from wave 1 to wave 2 to wave 3, you just need to identify the specific variable you're merging the data sets based on, and that's it. You can do that. Okay, pretty straightforward. But we'll take a look at it together, and then if you get to work on that, awesome. But if you don't get to work on that, you could always practice afterwards. But I think the instructions, and also instructional videos are very, very helpful. I watched it myself and then did it, so I was able to make it happen. But I clicked on the wrong thing the very first time, but then so it did not come up. But then I fixed it after I followed through the instruction again. So there's no mystery in it. Pretty straightforward. So let's take a look at the survey first, and then see what they are. So this understanding society data files, they have a number of different questionnaires. So know that. So it's not just like one questionnaire. They got the data. It's not as straightforward as that. It has a few of them. First of all, it has this what we call the household questionnaire, and then there is this adult men questionnaire, and then there's also the adult self-completion questionnaire for more sensitive topics, and the youth self-completion questionnaire for people aged 10 to 15 years. Okay, so there are a bunch of different questionnaires for you to look at. When you download the data set from the UK Data Service, you'll find a number of data files. This is what we are doing right now. Let's see if we can get to the destination during this class time, so we can do more with it. If not, we don't have to worry about it. This is because combining all of this data into a single data file would create a very large file that would be cumbersome to use, also confusing. Okay, because I think data management is a skill that you must learn and do very well. Okay, so then this entire data file, once we have access to that fairly soon, hopefully, fingers crossed, then we can decompose them. By saying that, I mean, let's look at the structure. It's really relatively straightforward. So there are going to be files by waves. Okay, we'll take a look at it, but this is basically what it will look like once we have it downloaded and then have access to the folders, individual folders. We'll be able to. So the files we get from wave to wave will vary, but if we look at the files for wave 1, first, the data are separated into files by wave. This is indicated by starting letter of each file name, with the exception of 3 files which will be discussed later. But let's look at them one after the other. Data files from wave 1 begins with A, and data files from wave 2 begins with B, and so on. So we could potentially assume this is from 3 different waves. Okay, we have wave 1 starting from A, wave B starting with with B, and with 3. And as you can identify, I don't know if you notice that, if you look at them specifically, there are some variables, okay, that are repetitively occurred throughout the different waves of survey. So this one, for example, call record, they showed up in 3 waves, okay? That's the idea of, doing the survey following each, I guess, each year. They do it 1 wave, 2nd wave, 3rd wave. But the wave may not be by year. It may be by quarter. I'm just giving you an example. But some variables occur repetitively. Okay. There's also what we call child repeating itself. Cohab, I did not see that. But eGoat showed up a couple of times, 3 times sequentially. Okay. MStat, don't see that, but HRESP showed up a few times every wave. So anyways, so this is just to show you a broad picture. And some of the youth variable, for example, this youth variable showed up in wave 1. It also showed up in wave 2. It also showed up in wave 3. Okay. This newborn, notice that it is a variable that came up from the 3rd wave only. Oh, I'm sorry. It actually came up from the 2nd wave, newborn. Okay. So these are, I guess, one of the ways to organize the data set, understand what we're trying to do. But again, these are just to give you an example. Your actual data sets that you have access to or will be working on for your research projects or or research papers are going to be different. But I think the reason we're looking at this is to try to get a good understanding of what's going on with the data management thing, and then how do we actually manage or deal with large-scale longitudinal data that are organized by waves, for example. Okay, you could also look at the file by topic. Okay, what do I mean by that? So here's what's going on. It looks, we have to understand it. So these files are then separated based on the topic and whether the data relates to the household or the individual. So we were talking about there are 4 different surveys that 4 different questionnaires we looked at: household, adult, and then youth, self-completion. So that the next thing is to look at the files by topic. Based on the topic and whether the data relates to the household or the individual. And in the survey documentation, the file names begins with a W underscore, and this is followed by a short name that relates to the topic covered. So we'll look at the examples really quick, but let's finish off this first. So these panel studies, like by wave, have core modules that are repeated each time the survey is carried. So you would expect to see some file names appear for every wave in the data. So I showed you some of the examples, like for example, the income, the data on income and also payments would be in wave 1, but then wave 2 it will be coming up again, and so on. So understanding how the files are named can help you identify at a glance of what they relate to, and therefore which file you might need. Okay, because you may not need all of the files, but just some of them. So that's what we are hoping to have you understand. Other waves will have also we also have data files, for example, like parenting style, child maintenance. This depends on the questions themselves and whether they rotate in that particular wave or the next wave, etc. Okay, but once again, depending on your research topic, the information you need might be found in more than one file, so you need to merge the files together. That's what we are talking about in terms of merging. Because you may not want to look at them separately, even though it's beneficial to look at them by waves. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at the data sets as as a whole, and you're trying to tell a story using all waves of data, then this might be to your interest. Okay. All right. So this table, not short but also not terribly long, it is showing you in wave 1, okay, in the first wave of the survey, what each file's level of analytics is all about. Okay, like each one of this data file, what is it? And then the level of analysis, is that on individual level or is going to be on a household level? So these are going to be, looking, for example, this variable, we were looking at it just now, this call rec, it showed up in the first wave, it also showed up in the second wave, and then it also showed up in the third wave repetitively. But what does it really mean? Okay, this is what we see, information about the interview outcome at each interview call. Okay, so this is basically like information about this, and then this is at the household level. You're not calling an individual, you're calling this household. And then this adopt variable, I don't remember if this is repeating itself from wave 1 to wave 2 to wave 3, but this is about adopted and stepchild information at the individual level. But anyway, there are a lot of those. So what is your feeling looking at these many different variables at this first glance? I mean, by taking a look at it, what does that make you feel right away? I mean, if you're looking at this, I mean, if you're working on the research using this data file, what is your sense of feeling out of looking at these variables and their descriptions? If you don't mind sharing with me, you can feel free to just speak up. I mean, we have a very small group anyways, so we can make it even more, I guess, efficiently intimate, so we can just, learn from each other and talk with each other. What does this make you feel? Like, looking at all of this. I mean, this data set is about what? Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna try to share with you what I think about it. So these data sets are going to be understanding about society. So I guess, my takeaway by looking at this is that research, at the end of the day, what does research do for you? If how many of you are doing masters, or pursuing master degrees here? How many of you are pursuing PhDs here? Okay, great. I mean, if you're pursuing a PhD, you're working on research, and then what does your research eventually do? I'm pretty sure you're not just doing that for getting your diploma. You'll get that for sure. But what is that for? I most recently, I guess, not until after I have worked on my own dissertation and finished that, I just feel like, someone told me, your research is not just trying to write a piece of research paper, but that concept has been with me for a very long time. But eventually, I think we're all trying to tell stories, okay? So that's why if you look at the publications these days, I think it's all about, I want to say, storytelling, okay? You're trying to streamline the stories that you're trying to tell through the availability of the data sets. That's it. So by looking at the names or descriptions of the data variables, like, child care, consent, social school information, spells of cohabitation, and how long did you cohabitate with their child, and then the relationships between pairs of individuals, employment history, respondent, and then level data issues, so income and payment information. These, I think, like before we work on any regressions, or before we pick on any econometrics models, before we do any statistical validity check, or we do any of those theory or framework thing, we have to streamline the stories. So here's what I will share with you. I don't think I spend a lot of time talking on research methods and also data sets or methodology, or my sensitivity check, or my robustness check, or whatever, those technical things. I don't spend a lot of time talking that with my advisor. She doesn't have the time either, because I don't think she talked with her advisor about those things either. Those are the things that are very challenging, seemingly, because they're technical, they're mechanical. It seems like not too many people know it. But the most important thing is that we spend a lot of time. Let's say she advises me 10 hours. 9 hours out of 10 hours are going to be focusing on streamlining the series of stories I'm telling, and what variables am I using exactly to do what. Okay, what I learned was to take these descriptive tables and then variables, and then put together several different stories that I wanted to tell and see what's feasible, and then chop them out one after the other and see which is the one that exactly I'm looking at. And then when it comes to data manipulation, oftentimes you said you have a lot of problems, random regressions, blah, blah, blah. That's only because we don't know what we are doing, okay? Or the variables we're looking at are going to be a mess. But merging data, like what we're showing you, that's going to be pretty straightforward, okay? But getting organized and know the ideas are going to be important. So this is what I learned at the end of my journey, not something when I began. So that's why I struggled a little bit. I mean, not a little bit. I struggled a lot at the beginning because I wasn't sure. I thought, I'm pretty smart. I got all the training. I did great in those courses. The statistics software, I learned them, and I got great grades. But those don't really matter at all. None of them really matter. I was pretty much on the wrong path. But I guess it took me a while to realize that. Anyways, so this is the second step, to look at the files by wave. After look at the files by wave, and then you look at the files by topic, and then moving on to what we call the demographics, and then okay, hold on, the demographics, and then matching. So, for example, if we look at this file. This name, whatever it is, okay. These files, okay, they contain data after the initial wave of the entry. So this file, the second one, for example, contains basic information about the interviewers. We could assume those are going to be either their personal identification IDs or you probably give them ID, whatever they are. So. Or the demographic information about them, age, religion, race, employment situation, etc. For example, here, ethnicity, place of birth, school leaving age, type of school attended, father, mother's job characteristics, when at age 14, year of marriage, and first cohabitation. It's the same thing. So there are also different ways of looking at your marriage status. Like this one looks at marriage and cohabitation status, year in which first child is born, job characteristics, birth weight for children in the panel. These are, I guess, you may not need all of them anyways, but they could be very helpful in terms of help you shape the research questions. And then the second data set, the second data file contains the information required for matching individuals in the same households within each wave, and for matching individuals between waves. So this is the specific variable. You can actually read it. I mean, I guess understand what this is about just by reading the variable itself. This is called X wave ID. So you're going to use this to match data sets, but I guess we can look at it. So this is it, X IV data, interview characteristics, wave data, wave ID, so the level of analysis. The same naming structure applies to variables. Most of the individual variables within the file has something akin to a mononomic name prefixed with the letter relating to the wave. For example, the variable for age and sex are named as below in different waves. For example, if you're looking at age and sex in wave 1, that starts with the age underscore. These are, again, data management, pretty essential because it helps you, I guess, again, streamline your data regression. That is on data regression. All of you have done that. I'm sure one way or the other, you have worked on some small projects before. Data regression takes only a few seconds, okay, or a few minutes. I mean, once you streamline and clean everything, the data running regression thing doesn't take that long at all, okay? The rest of your research time really is just spent on making sense of the research outcomes and then putting them into fancy tables and also graphs, and then you can tell a story. So this is it. But age and sex in wave 2 starts with a B. So these are naming conventions that we talk about, useful to know. Variables from different youth completion questionnaire mostly start with the letter YP, and most derived variables are shown by a suffix underscore DV, for example. Okay, so for example, this is using monthly pay. This is a derived variable. Basically, a notation of a derived variable is that you calculate it, you derived it, but to make note of this and differentiate in this variable with other existing variables in wave 1, you would actually add the underscore DV. But you all have different ways of managing your data. No one is actually going to be, I mean, when you publish your paper, no one's going to actually look at your specific codings to check for validity, but they are all going to have access. I guess, these days, whatever you're publishing, you have to submit your whatever paper I'm doing now, you have to submit your stata_do file and then to the publisher, and then they are going to make it available to the general audience so they can do replication if they want to. So but you can still have different ways of naming your variables and creating your variable. That's not a problem. You can do that. Okay. Then yeah, so you can, there are a bunch of different ways of doing so. You can do that for sure. So this is just, again, paving the road for you to look at this. Sets of data. So let's take a look at the data a little bit more. Okay, so identifying individuals and then households. Hold on one second. Yeah. All right, so this is, again, identifying individuals and households. Oh yeah, right. Okay, so I see what's going on. So these are going to be the identifier we're gonna be looking at. Oh, there are some of the examples. So okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a quick break, and then the data would actually be good to go after you come back from a 5 minutes break or something, or you just stretch your legs on your at your seat if you want to, and then we can continue. Okay, take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll continue. We'll do another hour or something, and then that should be it. But I wanted to get you started on these different waves, and then so you know what we're talking about. Okay, so but I do believe if you don't already have a research project, you probably can create a project out of this understanding society data. I'm actually thinking about it while I was looking, because I spent too much time working on these data sets now, so I feel like I want to get something out of it. I just have to a question. It's a different context. I've never worked on the UK context before, but I think it's worthwhile to pursue that for sure. Okay, all right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll follow up with each other in about 5 minutes. Okay, I just need to sit a little bit. That's it. Okay, all right, take a break, and then we'll come back and talk. Oh, it's actually 好，它已经下好了，是不是？Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. All right. Great. Wow. Okay. Why there? Okay. I'm gonna. Oh, this is 这是你的，对吧？
对对对。
Okay. Let's see. Right. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. 把它考到 PhD 这个领域。
Okay. Hold on. Extract. Oh wow, there are 425 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why it took a long time. It's gonna be quick. This is very quick, so I'm gonna
Okay. Just put it here.
put it here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So when I finish, I will just take it.
Okay, no problem. I'll just reject it. So you still use this, huh?
Yeah. Cause like it saves space.
Saves the
On
on your computer. Okay,
Yeah.
that's very. I haven't been using it for a long time. I'm using Dropbox.
Ah.
Yeah, I paid it for every year, so just so that everything can be up there. It's not secure, but I don't carry this anymore.
Yeah. But like sometimes our data we need to give it confidentiality.
Yeah,
so like,
yeah.
to take
I
it.
understand. Yeah, but this looks so. Yeah, this is from a few years ago. I was using it
I'm
too.
old enough as well.
No, I mean this is very helpful. Just that you have to keep it.
Yeah. 老师，我还想问一个问题，就是比如说它有好几个 wave 的话，它有 different 就是它可能在 wave 2的时候有些新加的。
All right, so this is good. Downloads. All right, so downloads. This is okay. This is the file. This is everything. Okay, copy. Paste. Okay, should work. Okay.
Can I paste it to PhD? Because I don't think this is.
I'm gonna paste it here under core curriculum. You can do it later. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's already been done. Oh, more. Okay, the good news is that we have the data set downloaded and I extracted it after. You're more than welcome to come and copy afterwards if you want to. Yeah, but we'll be looking at it now together, which is good. Okay, all right, so you can just take it. Cool. Excellent. Okay, no problem. All right, so we have it, which is right here. Let's take a look at it and see how complicated it can be. So once I open this data file, all right, this SPSS. So if I were to click on this one, I mean, there are a bunch of them. Let's make sense of them, okay? This data dictionaries thing, you have to extract it and understand it. Basically, that explains what's going on. This is about this survey, that information about this survey. So if I will click on this, let's see what it is. So basically, all right, this is informational, but also pretty critical. Like this is understanding society, waves 1 to 12, and then harmonized British household, I think British household public survey maybe, but we can go back to that, that's no problem. And United Kingdom household longitudinal survey, this study number, and then, okay, this is from University Access. I don't know if I read it right. Anyways, this is basically this is the I guess very basic level information about it. back up a little bit. I wanted to show you the SP. Oh, okay. Well, this is a file information that you can. Wow. So this is a lot. This is the file information you can look at. I would oftentimes just print it out. Okay. So we have. First of all, you always start from the README file for sure, 100%. Do that. Citation, don't have to worry about it too much for now, but you always want to start from the README file first, understand what it is about. And then for each file, okay, for each file, it corresponds to a specific questionnaire from a specific wave, okay? Just to give you one example, this is kin and other relationships between pairs of individuals, okay? Anyways, for this BHPS survey, there are, for each wave, there are going to be different files. And each file represents something different, okay? Each file represents something different. Income and payment data, etc. There are demographic, and in enumeration. So there are different ways of talking about compensation and that kind of enumeration, grade information. Anyway, there are quite a few of those. Second wave, as you can see, it pick up new variables. Okay, some of them are repeating. All information from the household, for example. This is just to show you. This one is a repeating variable that came up again from the second wave, okay? Third wave, fourth wave, fifth wave, sixth wave, seventh wave, and then all the way to the 18th wave. Yeah, all the way to the 18th wave. So that's that. Now you have a good understanding of, you know, this BHPS survey. There are 18 waves of those. Now, for this UK household survey, there are also, we were looking at an example, we were looking at a snapshot from this whole survey. They name them differently, okay? They name them differently. So this, again, whatever that starts from A, this starts from wave 1, all right? This starts from wave 1 for different variables. We were looking at some of them just now: cohabitate, child, income, adopt. So we were looking at some of them just now as a demonstration for the demonstration purpose. And then moving on to wave 2, they name the files with a prefix of B underscore. Same thing, moving on to wave 3, they've done with this wave C, and then D, E, which corresponds to wave 5. 6, 7, all the way to 12 waves, okay? 12 waves. So that's the second questionnaire that we talked about. The third questionnaire, which is looking at another survey, okay, which is looking at another, questionnaire, that has, let's see, that has variable immigration and ethnic minority boost variable comparison. That has, again, fewer variables, but also 12 waves. So what I wanted to share with you is that this file information may not make sense to you immediately for everything, which is completely fine and expected. They don't make sense to me immediately right away either, but we have to do the organizational work to be able to work on it, okay? So this is it. But showing you how do I extract the data and how do I get access to it is important. So this is data, not data, I keep saying data, SPSS, okay? So there are 2 surveys, okay, that has the data files we need. BHPS, there are lots of those. This is the starting. So this is, guys, this is awesome, and this is actually in a way I guess, too good to be true in a way. If you have data organized in these, like this, and then it's so well cleaned and named, boy, it has saved you a lot of time to do any research on, okay? If we click on this income data, just really quick, I wanted to see what it is because that's what I'm researching every day. Because I'm studying people's graduates' earnings, okay? So this is what oh boy, this is exciting. So see how well organized these are. There are 48 variables of them, but this is how clean they are. The width numeric value, and then what they are. So data view, this is the actual data. This is the beauty with SPSS. And if you need to match any data sets for any of the reasons, okay, you could either use, well, I guess we'll talk about, you could either use either one, okay. Personal identifier, I guess this is the one we're gonna use, okay. For the public release one, Crosswave personal identifier, you're gonna use one of them, okay. The personal identifier PID is going to be good, okay. It's going to be, this is actually not this is actually restricted. It doesn't say if it is restricted data set, but anyways, let's look at the example. But this is exciting in terms of looking at this is, see how clean they are. I just don't think this is, so if you could use this understanding society data and come up with some question and then do research on it, do that. You're gonna gain a lot. Actually, Professor Tarani Chandola, he does. I'll first of all admit that I don't know everything of his research, but we were just talking about his research, and then this is understanding society data. He's very familiar with it. He was a very renowned the professor in the UK, and he did this understanding survey a lot. We just never have talked about it, but I do plan to talk with him seriously about it once I get this sorted out. I think there are a lot can be done with this service. It's just going to be enormous. For the question I'm studying right now, like understanding attending a prestigious university in the United States, Ivy Leagues in particular, what's the return? But now that I have access understanding survey society thing, that can help me study the income return of attending, let's say, just the big five in the UK context. I don't know too much about it, but I think I can just look at that. LSE, Imperial College, University of Cambridge, Oxford. What's the other one? That's the UCL. UCL is the big top five. University College London, LSE, and then Imperial College, Cambridge, and Oxford. That's it, right? That's the big five. Okay, anyway, all right, I got it. Like, if I were looking at returns to these 5 universities, I think they would be fascinating too, using this data set. Anyways, so that's one. And this UK household labor survey thing, there are also a lot of things going on here. But they're too clean to be true, but they are, okay? So that's it. Very exciting, organized, but let's see what we can do with that, okay? Let's go back to the example, to go back to what we were talking about, identifying individuals and households. We were looking at it. I know it's boring, but I think it's going to be informational if we get into it, okay? So this is again a household panel study. Individuals who are clustered into household units, okay? And then we can analyze, I guess, the series of data in 2 different levels, individuals and households, okay? In two different levels. And then when we talk about merge or matching data, you can do so by looking at the public available personal ID, okay? You can do that. Whatever that has a prefix to this is for you to link data for individuals across multiple waves, okay? This is what you can do. I think my understanding is that this is public available, so that's why they say if they remain in the study, don't drop out, you can do this, okay? And then this one is a household identifier Again, this is for public available information to find members of the same households within any single wave. It is unique within a single wave, but not across waves, so it cannot be used to link households from one wave to the other. And then the third one is the person number within the household. Each household member is allocated with a number from 1 upwards, and they're only unique within a single wave. So this is what it's saying. But let's look at this example. 3 identifiers, how do they work in practice? Now this table is, if you look at it together with me, this is a household of 3 people, okay? A household of 3 people, 2 parents and 1 child, teenage daughter, 2 different waves, wave 1 and wave 2. Now, between wave 1 and wave 2, there are some changes to the family. So first of all, we have the household ID, which is exactly the same for wave 1 because they're from the same family, correct? But they are 3 different persons, so they have personal ID, okay, that are different. The APO, let's not worry about it for now. APO is the person number within the household. So I guess this is just for the first wave. Each one of them is being labeled with a number. Like the father, the mother would be the first, the father would be second, daughter would be the third, etc. You can do that. Okay, so this is, if you still recall, this is specific DV thing means it's a derived variable of age, okay? So, all right, so that's it. The wave 2, it's going to be a little bit different. The changes are, we're looking at, let's say, we are looking at a different household, which means the daughter could possibly have, let's say, so what can you, the second wave is a different household ID, but we don't have to worry about that. I guess what we need to worry about is the status change of each one of them. Obviously, the mother has gone older 1 year, the daughter has gone old 1 year, and the father has gone old 1 year. So they are no longer living together, right? That's what we would be able to identify. Can you see that? That's the change, okay? So wave 1, all 3 individuals have the same household ID because they all reside in the same household. Each member of the family has allocated a value for between 1 and 3 depending on their position in the household grade. Second wave, all of their ages have increased by 1. The mother and daughter have the same household ID, meaning that they still live together, but the father has a new household ID because he has moved out, is living in a separate household. That's what we can infer for now. The father's personal ID within the also changed to reflect this, okay? He's the only person in the new household now. The daughter now in the, I guess, new household with her mother is also changed. The unique person ID haven't changed and remain the same as long as they are all in a study. So this is what we are able to tell from different waves of the data, and how do we do that? How do we kind of like make sense of them? So in summary, I think it's pretty important for us to understand how the identifying variables work so that you can choose the correct one when analyzing the data. Again, understanding the data. In order to identify and examine individuals with same wave, you could either use them together or separately, okay? Particularly when you want to merge the data longitudinally, that will be critical, okay? So I'll skip this for now, but let's look at this linking variables thing and see what's going on. So to give you a little bit of a background work, I'm gonna just show you how do we, I'm just going to play this quick video.
In this demo video,
a quick demonstration video with you of how you merge data sets, okay?
we'll show you how to merge the Wave 1 and Wave 2 Understanding Society data. First of all, make sure you have both data files open in SPSS. Next, go to the Wave 1 file. You can tell it's the Wave 1 file as it has an A as the first character, whereas the Wave 2 file has a B. We're going to merge the files using the variable PIDP, which is a personal unique identifier. This is the same in all waves and can be used to link information about a person from different records belonging to one wave, or to link information from different waves like we're doing here. To conduct the merge, click on the Data tab at the top of the screen, then hover over Merge Files and select the second option to Add Variables. This will open the Add Variables window. This window gives you the option to conduct the merge with either an open dataset or an external SPSS data file. We want to use the Wave 2 data, and as it is open, it appears here in the first Open Datasets box. Click on the Wave 2 data file to select it, and then click the Continue button. This will open the Add Variables from Dataset 2 window. This window has two tabs. The first tab, Merge Methods, gives us three options to merge the data file: a one-to-one merge based on file order, a one-to-one merge based on key values, and a one-to-many merge based on key values. We're going to use the second option, a one-to-one merge based on key values, which SPSS has already selected. Underneath this, there are various options which relate to the other merge methods, although these aren't relevant to this merge, so we'll ignore them this time around. At the bottom of this tab, you'll see the Key Variable pane. Here we can see SPSS has already identified and entered PIDP as our key variable. We'll just take a quick look at the other tab, Variables. This tab has three panes. First, on the left, the Excluded Variables pane, which is blank. The fact that this pane is blank tells us that all variables from both datasets are included in the merge. The included variables are shown in a list on the right. The variables from the Wave 1 dataset have an asterisk in the brackets after them, and if I scroll down we can see that the Wave 2 variables have a plus sign. Underneath this is the Key Variables pane with PIDP listed in it. If SPSS hadn't already identified this as our key variable, we could use the arrows here to specify it. This all looks good, so we're going to click the OK button. SPSS will return us to the dataset screen and start the merge. In the bottom right of the screen you can see that SPSS is running the merge from the changing text. First it sorts the cases and then executes the merge. Once the merge is complete, the bottom right will say IBM SPSS Statistics Processor is ready. We can check the merge has been successful by returning to the original dataset, where if we scroll down we should see the added variables with the B_ prefix. This demo video has shown you how to merge data files together in SPSS.
So essentially, I could have you do that, but one, you may or may not have SPSS or the data sets themselves. But I guess you probably would need to do this. Take a little bit longer time, so I'm going to have you do that. But I wanted to repeat the thinking process, just so that you understand exactly linking data. You're basically looking at one personal ID, public available data identifier, and connect that through different waves of data. That's it. So that's kind of what we want to do. So for example, if we wanted to look at, so this is exactly the question I studied, if you want to understand changes in people's income over time, then we wanted to know what is it from different waves, okay? So again, if we're looking at so this is much better by looking at different waves and different people. If we look at the 3-person household from earlier, the relevant data from 3 separate waves would look like this. Let's make sense of this, okay? The first wave, the 3 different people. I forgot if this is mother, son, or daughter. But anyways, this is I think this is supposed to be, I want to say the daughter because the daughter makes the least. This might be the father. Wave 2, the father did not report anything. Wave 3, he reported back in. Only the mother. Well, I don't know if it is. Let's see if it is the mother. 105789. 105789. Yeah, it is the mother, so I'm right on that. So anyways, cross-check is just to go back and forth. This is called data analysis. This is called mother. father, and then so this will look at how individual change over time. We need to link the file to these waves together. So eventually, what we wanted to do is that we are trying to link, instead of having, I guess, separate two columns for each wave, we're putting all of them together. Simple enough if we were trying to create a table, an Excel table, for example. This is what we do. Now, we want a link to create what is referred to as a wide format file, which looks like something like this, okay? 3 different individuals in the same household, personal ID, okay? Personal ID public. This is the pay in, it's a derived variable, first of all. This is just helpful to know from the information booklet we have gotten. It's a derived variable. This is also a derived variable from 3 different waves. So we have this information. There is still 1 row per respondent, but additional columns have been added for subsequent time periods. So this is what we want for merging different waves, okay? This is what we also did. So the structure of the new file, though, is going to be something like this. If we look at this data view, the structure of the new file is that we look at it, we switch over to variable view. This tells us what's going on. Now, each row, this new table, okay, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 34, 35, each row has a variable, okay? It has a variable. And then each column is going to be information has to do with that variable, such as the coding frame, like how you code it in the values column. If you scroll down, different waves are going to be prefixed with different numbers. That's what we do. That's what we do, okay? So this is just to give you a overview of the table, of the data variable table, okay? You're going to have the personal ID, but again, this is personal identifier, not public, okay? So you have all of them, and then when you are trying to merge them, this is a separate row, but you're trying to again have the separate row, but add on additional columns for each one of them. So the idea of merging further waves and dropping extraneous variables is this, okay? So if we want to, let's say, after we merge wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, we wanted to do more, okay? You can simply repeat the process we did. Like this is an example, merge wave 3, then you could open the original, the third wave file, which is prefixed with a C, return to the file that contained the merged wave 1 and wave 2 data file, that's a new file, and then again, add variables, do that, and that will merge wave 1 and wave 2. The newly generated and also merged data file of wave 1, wave 2, and add on an additional variable using to merge in wave 3, okay? So, but whatever you're doing, okay, SPSS automatically would suggest personal ID as a respondent variable, as an ID that it used to merge data from this British household survey data sets, okay? It's going to suggest one of the two. But you want to be consistent with whichever one you are using, okay? If it suggests 2 of them, like key variables, either, like I said, the difference is one of them is public, the other one's not. So you could use one of them. However, as we are only using this data, when completing any analysis in module, the variable move into excluded variable before completing the merge, okay? What does that mean? If we are only using this one, then the suggested one will be removed, and then it will be put back to whatever it was before, okay? So So here's what's going on. Once the process of linking these waves are complete, then you should now see the merge file. The final merged file has these many variables, and this makes the file very large, okay? But then you can do the analysis afterwards. You can drop a variable by simply delete them from your data set. You can do that. You can do that if you don't want to include it anymore. Okay, that's I guess the easiest way to do so. All right. So before I move on to this, I wanted to do two things with you. Why don't you? How many of you have registered accounts with UK Data Service? You have. Have you gotten hold of the data sets already? You have. Okay. If you have done that, I want you to do a quick practice on your own, okay? Just follow, you don't have to do too many merge. Just merge wave 1 and wave 2 and see what happens, okay? Just a little bit for time of working on that. Just merge wave 1, wave 2, using this example and do that and see what happens, okay? I think that would be a good way to do before we move forward. Is that okay with you? You want to do that and see what happens?
It's not being downloaded, so I think it's going to take a while.
Oh, you have to download it. Oh.
It's still being downloaded.
Oh, it's still being downloaded. Okay, I see. All right, well, that's a good thing. All right, you know what? I'm just going to keep going forward, and then I'll let you go earlier today, just so that the practice that you need to do, you can do it later. I'll stick around for a little bit, but for you, I'm going to finish up this anti-children data and then just let you go a little bit earlier to do that yourself afterwards. Okay, so, all right, so this item 9 response thing, we talked about like the unit 9 response, which is respondents who do not take part in the survey at all. Now, the item 9 response or missing variables is when a respondent does take part in a survey, but they does not provide response to all the questions. Again, this is common to all surveys, as we talked about to including from the beginning the survey data part, okay? But there are many different reasons for missing value. For example, if we look at this understanding society data set, there are a number of reasons why response to a specific question might be missing or invalid in many stats, like understanding society one. So this one, for example, could be, these values are all, I guess, coded differently given, what the researcher find it convenient. But they're all missing value, first of all, but there are different reasons. You might do things differently with it, okay? They could be missing by error. So these, you don't want to delete them right away, but because you want to keep the sample size consistent. Some of them are not applicable to the respondent, so they won't respond. Or proxy respond not eligible for the question. They, for example, they are not the target to be surveyed for this question. And then, or some of them just refuse to answer, so it could be refused, or they could be don't know. So the variables with large numbers of missing with large number of missing values, here's what you want to do, okay? If you have a variable with a large number of missing or inapplicable value, let's say this one, like not applicable, then you can be confused about it, but then the error or poor response that, but it's not really the case. So there's, what's important is that you wanted to know the design of the questionnaire, and then and also the studies, okay, and also the studies. Let's take a look at this example. So this example is using the marital status information for understanding society. So this variable itself, just to give you an example, let's take a look at it. So this table, okay, this table in the image showed the frequency distribution of the variable present marital status in wave 4. If we look at this, okay, if we look at this, the frequency percentage valid percent for the values, missing values, and inapplicable cases, then we would be able to see that 87% of responses are inapplicable. This is very alarmingly large, okay? So we dig a little bit, understand why this is such a high proportion of missing value. So you understand the questionnaire, that's where we got started. And then you have to think about, like, this particular question, what is that asking for, okay? If we were to look at it. Now, this documentation for this variable, we look at it, it shows the relevant question. This is what the question is about. So we see that, and then also how this is being recorded, okay? How this is being recorded. So in the end, what we learned is that this particular variable itself may not be the right variable to use if you wanted to look at what proportion of the sample were married in this particular wave, for example. Instead, you need to look at another variable that is called marital status. That's you can call it a better variable, or you can call it a more appropriate variable, but the frequency distribution for this variable is shown in the table in the image below. It shows a much higher proportion of a valid response. Frequency of 48, and then this is because this wave 4, D it's a prefix of D, it means wave 4. This variable is created by compiling responses from other relevant questions, including from the household grade questionnaire. So you have responses from a far greater proportion of the sample using this particular variable itself. If you look at it, and then know the marriage status, then you would be able to see that. Okay, this is a higher percentage frequency rate. But again, understanding the specific variables would be critical. Yeah, would be critical. So that's that. All right, so let's move on to analyzing data, and what are we what do we need to be aware of when we are analyzing the longitudinal data. Okay, basic questions with the variables. There are a lot of them: categorical, numerical, etc. So, analyzing longitudinal data, similar to analyzing survey data, you have to take a look at the types of different types of the categorical variable. How do their particular function in the questionnaire, and how are they structured? And also, if you're looking at one wave, which is cross-sectional, over time using frequency distribution and repeated measures across waves, you can do that too. You could also use categorical variable to examine the within person change and see how by using cross tabulations, which is what we showed you last time. And calculate descriptive statistics to examine change over time in the continuous variables. Okay, so just to make a quick explanation, I think I talked a lot today. But I hope it has been helpful just in terms of guiding you to what to do. Obviously, given the organizational work that we are doing for the workshops, like, everybody is coming from different stage, and then we are following through the workshops differently. But I hope you'll be able to take something out of this by, I guess, not hearing me talk about the specifics, but by walking through this series of modules yourself, know a little bit more, okay? And then you would know what to do afterwards. I think that's my hope that would be helpful to you, okay? But you have to do all of this, you'll be forgetting that very soon, or you don't even remember or know what I'm talking about until after you actually do the practice yourself, which is pretty significant. I wanted to emphasize on that, okay? All right, so the choice questions, similar categorical. The choice questions, they are, you can look at the trend and then of a cross-sectional data variable and how do they change. So if we look at this example, of one of the questions in understanding this understanding society data. If we look at this variable of, let's say, this is a derived variable, which is recording the highest quantification attained at each wave, then look at any change in educational behavior over time. If we look at this, then first of all, this is a derived variable, as we said. It is created by the survey team from a range of information connected in the annual question survey. So first of all, that's what that is for. And then a specific note about this, you could look for it here. Initially, okay, when you look at the question itself, this is asking respondents what is the highest educational or qualification, like, what degree do you have? Do you have a bachelor? Do you have a master? Do you have a PhD? Or do you have a different type of PhD, doctorate? And then subsequent waves, you are going to be asked, did you have a second master or a second, not often people will have a second bachelor, but it could be. So this is the logic of this, original variable, highest quantification. What does that really mean? And then what are the options, and you look at it. But basically, if you want to analyze a specific variable from the Understanding Society survey, you have to know specifics of what's going on here, okay? I can't click on it. But basically, you have to understand like the options, the categories, and then are you having like a university higher degree, or are you having a first degree? So the UK has it differently, like a diploma in higher education, a PGCE. I don't really know what does that really mean, but I guess I'm sure you can make sense of that. I do know IGCSE. This is kind of like the high school level, junior high school level, etc. International Baccalaureate, that's the IB, that's kind of like a high school diploma thing. Welsh Baccalaureate, that's a different, I guess, a different system. But, some of them, even though they are different, like A-level, A-level and also IB, they are the same thing. They're both like, I want to say, both the high school graduation diploma, okay? So it's very different than the United States. So this is getting interesting. I think I'm learning something new too. By looking at the specific variables. But anyways, even this, you can tell a lot of different stories. So the takeaway from this is that you're gonna do a derived variable. Looking at this original value of the survey question, you create a new variable and look at it, okay? From this multiple choice question, and then you create additional variables by looking at the interview instruction, and then code all that applies. So you have to do a few coding to create a different variable, okay? All right, so these are stories following this simple categorical question. Giving you additional examples. So after you do everything, then you can create, I want to say, a frequency table as the previous one has shown you. Yeah, this would be the expected outcomes. So from where you could actually look at the change over time of a categorical variable, which is a cross-sectional one, and repeat measures of choice categorical values, and then this is the same as the handout I have given you, create a frequency table. How do you do that? But before you do that, before you create the frequency table, you will want to understand what's going on with the data sets first before you can actually do that. And then be able to observe the frequency distribution, particularly if there are going to be some missing variables, and then degrees, and also different levels, like A-level, GSE, like I said, they are essentially measuring the degree attainment below the college level. So what is it? So, all right, very informational, but I would want you to kind of like, I guess you have to follow through this specifically yourself, not just like me talking through this. These survey waves are going to be, this is the percentage of having a degree of higher quantification from each different waves, how many of them, okay, are repeated measure across different waves. and then this is repeated measure for multiple choice category variable. So they are all somehow and creating a frequency table for different variable. Let's say this is a different variable we're looking at, like high blood pressure, for example. They are all going to be doable in a way that you make sense of that. You derive variables if you need to, and then based on the nature of the variable, and then you do frequency analysis, which is the fundamental things we talked about it all goes back to the introduction to survey data part, okay? Cross-tabulation is what helps us to explore the within person change. The idea with that is that, which is also the benefit of cross-sectional data, is that the benefit of longitudinal data is that you can look at person over different time periods, and then and if you do cross-tabulation of a two-way table, for example, then you not only be able to see them in one time period, but also look at the persistence of a particular state. I think that would be also very helpful to do that. So here is an example of looking at cross-tabulation, say how respondents respond to the question, which political party do you feel closest to? Look at the change between wave 1 and wave 2. You could look at it. But whatever you do, you wanted to weight the case by you want to weight the sample with the specific example with a specific weighting variable, and then again rationalize why you are weighting by that specific variable, and then do that. Okay, you might be weighting them differently, and then also again these are repetitive, but you want to specify the missing values. Okay, so cross-tabulation SPSS. This is what we talked in Introduction to Survey Data. When you do a cross-tabulation in the first stage, this is going back to the original. Just that this is a more complicated data set, but you can follow through this. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna just stop here. But my saying is that you are more than welcome to stay in touch if you want to with me when you run into this, because run into problems when you are doing these exercises, because I have done that too. I'm gonna dive much deeper into the data sets than I thought I would, because these are gonna help with my ongoing research agenda for sure, 100%. So I'm going to look into this. If you have an interest, we can keep talking, okay? We might be able to do something, but I'm going to look at the survey data myself too. So I think they are much more helpful than I thought they would be. So that's that. But if you have questions or specific ones, you can always reach out to me and ask. My email is right here, dean@hku. But I'm going to work on this, so I probably will need help from folks, or I will find other research partners to work with me on this data too, because it's very interesting to know that that this thing has a lot to do with what I'm looking at, because this is what I'm using. I think I showed you in the last time. This is what I'm doing now, and then I'm doing a lot with it. So 2021 access denied. I don't know why, but can't be reached. That's interesting. So maybe this is because I'm accessing that externally. I mean from.
I think you access outside the US.
Yeah, but I was able to access it at home. So service unavailable. And for schedule maintenance. Well, it's schedule maintenance. That could be funny, but. This could be interesting too. So national, this is 2023. Let's see what this is. This is, yeah. So National Survey Foundation invites comments too. Yeah. So this is basically they released the newest data set incorporating some of the. This is the survey I'm using. 2020 National Survey College Graduates. I think this this is talking about the survey design of this one. Yeah. Okay. So that's that. I wanted to pause here now. Tirani just emailed me the survey thing. I would want you to just, let's see if the code pops up. Okay, the code does pop up. If you could actually just do a quick survey of what we did today, and then that would be great. You can just, you can just, I guess you can just scan it, and do that. Okay, that would be helpful. I guess, what I'm thinking right now is if we're teaching the workshops again in the future, we wanted to make it consistent in a way that we have students set up with dataset SPSS from the very first beginning, and we wanted to put people into groups so we can, and we have a very few questions. We only look at, let's say, 2 to 3, 3 to 4 questions per hour, and then look at it and then examine. But I'm throwing a lot on you, so I don't think it's going to be effective immediately, but hopefully, given that many of you are PhD students, you can take it at a faster speed than I thought it would be. But I hope this could be helpful. I know I also shared a lot of other relevant research techniques too, which I think would be essentially good, would be helpful. But at least I hope this has led you into the field of SPSS. I'm sure you already are doing something about it. Just that I hope this will be somehow helpful in the other ways. Okay, all right. So that's it. I'm gonna stop here. I'll stick around, and then if you have questions, feel free to chat and ask. But that's all. Keep doing what we're doing, and then and look into the understanding society data of the UK waves. I think it will be very helpful for many of our research projects. Okay.